is a PG podcast, but then Devin just kept on dropping shits and fucks, and
I'm just trying to figure out what's in her mouth.
I just want to see him interview Francesco Accoli.
No, he's a good human being, is what he would say about himself, I'm sure.
Who's hosting this thing?
Take charge, Kevin. Would you? Jesus.
First time we ever met those guys. That was the major drunken pub argument.
I think you guys are the worst.
I'm gonna have to probably watch some Canucks hockey, unfortunately.
Just making friends left, right, and center, and probably some enemies as well.
Tell him to shut up. He needs to hear that every once in a while.
Off to a good start.
All right. We are live.
It's okay to talk when it goes live.
Hello, and welcome to the Hockey Podcast. We are live, facebook.com. You can follow us on Twitter, podcast_hockey, facebook.com, the Hockey Podcast, youtube.com, the Hockey Podcast, where we sit at 100 and the Marie-Philippe Poulin of subscribers, 129. You could also subscribe to the audio shortly after the podcast is up. It is plus, let's look outside here. It is one of the hottest days of the year. Plus, it's 23. It's supposed to go to plus 30 here in Burnaby. And we are talking hockey. And we are talking semifinal hockey with Devin and Sean. Hello to both.
Hello, hello.
Hola.
Yes. Before we begin, I have to apologize for yesterday. I just let my emotions kind of take over during a part of the conversation, and I left. And I probably just should have stayed in there and continued on. And so I do apologize for what happened yesterday. I thank for everyone that kind of sticks through, and Sean, Devin, Chris, and Tyler. All of us have sometimes different opinions on things, and that happens, and that's okay. That we're not always going to agree, but at the end of the day, we still love each other, and we're still friends. So that's for my part. I just want to say I'm sorry, and
All good, man.
It happens. We've all had moments where either we've wanted to leave or have just sat there looking angry as to no end. But yeah, we've worked it out, and that's the big thing. Is you can have disagreements, you can have blow-ups, you can walk out of the studio like David Pratt and Don Taylor did over whether or not poker is a sport. But you have to find a way to move on, and we're ready to move on.
Yep. Yeah. And so we're going to start with the Habs and the Golden Knights. And there is some low-hanging fruit that is really easy to address. And if you were on Twitter at any time last night, if you heard the broadcast at any time last night, it was, Chris Lee, Damian Cox was trending on Twitter for his comment about Jacob Slavin getting the lady bang for most of the day. Chris Lee said, "Hold my beer," and then started to trend. I don't think we're going to spend a heck of a lot of time in this. I'm going to start here because we just have this clip up. We have Hockey Pod clips for those. And this is a clip from an episode. I'm just going to let Tyler do the talking on this. And this is what he said on Saturday. And I think that this is this is a deeper issue, I think, than Chris Lee. So give me a moment here while I set all this up. Share screen. Screen Chrome. It's a little lengthy, but we'll play a little bit of this just to get us kind of just there.
And the other thing that baffles me is the fact that something big like that, where there's blood everywhere, was completely missed.
Yeah. Well, and then the other thing that's been pointed out as well is that I think I'd have to relook at the NHL rule book, but if it's like the Hockey Canada rule book, I mean, something that constitutes a double minor like that is something where at the next stoppage, the linesman could come over and inform the referee. But when have you ever seen that happen in the NHL? I mean, this is where the ego gets in the way, right? Like the linesmen don't want to undermine the referees, and the referees aren't interested in hearing from some JFL, as we call them, just an effing linesman, about a penalty call. Okay,
Never heard that before. That's awesome.
I've never heard this before.
AFLs, yeah. So and then what? So the egos get in the way of getting the call right. That's what that's, I think, part of the issue there last night as well.
Well, shouldn't they be working as a team?
Yeah,
right.
Well, you'd think so, but it didn't happen there, guys. I mean, four. You can look. You can say with credibility, 4 guys missed it last night. Somebody had to have that.
Can I just toss us back just to the Islander Tampa Bay game, the Brayden Point goal, or the Brayden Point crash into Varlamov? I mean, that is a situation. Oops, I don't know. I don't know what happened there. Here, let me just fast forward this a little bit. Sorry, officiating in basketball, but still, I mean.
Well, to me, the reason why it's poor is something that it goes beyond just what the NHL can do at the amateur levels of many sports. Officiating is getting to be a thinner and thinner pool of talent. Kids are not sticking with it through the tough times when they're 13 or 14 and they're doing peewee games and they're getting screamed at by parents and stuff. They're not progressing past that. There are guys that are and ladies that are, but it's not as many as it used to be. And so then the trickle down or trickle up effect, however you want to describe it, you get to that NHL level and when they're trying to bring in new guys, there just isn't as much there to pick from. And then you can keep your senior officials on longer, but then the realities of father time set in where it's harder for them to keep up out there. Eventually they have to go. They're not going to stay there anymore. And once an experienced guy, like whenever it was that Bill McCreary retired, Hall of Famer, that experience was lost, and the net result for NHL officiating is that it's not as good. And the players wanted him doing all the big games, and they haven't seemed to really find anybody else since then that's been of that kind of status, right? That trust level with the players.
Yeah, I'll put the clip in, but I think I don't know if we can say anything more than that. I think that this is the reality. The reality is this is a bigger issue than you can go on Twitter and you can demand Chris Lee to be fired and Dan O'Rourke to be fired, but I don't want to be a referee. I don't. Sorry. Like I tried reffing once. I tried reffing at basketball and I was like, this is terrible. I'm terrible at it. Sorry. So but that's yeah.
I've never reffed ice hockey, but I ref field hockey, and it's the same thing. It's just if you're an official and you make a call that people question, you're the worst thing in the world. Trust me, I treat them the same way when I'm playing or I'm emotionally invested in any game, and it happens. But I think that Tyler made a bunch of really good points there about working together and having the egos getting involved, but I think that this goes so much deeper. You can call me a biased Canucks fan, but let's go all the way back to 2011 and how the standard changed from even the rest of the playoffs to the finals. Like you have to find a standard and stick to it. I don't care what the standard is anymore. If you want them to play and you want them to battle and create that emotion by not calling the roughing and letting the face washes happen, okay, fine. Just do it from October till June or whenever the season ends. Let's just go from there. Or if you want to tighten it up and have some more power plays, fine. But have it the same standard from October till June. When the standard changes, depending on what color the leaves are and how much snow's on the ground and what the temperature is, that's that's when you get these games where it's basically prison rules, and you don't know what a penalty is. You don't want to know what's going to happen when you do anything. So, it's just.
You do need that consistency. I don't mind the change in calls within the playoffs. I really don't mind that one. But as long as it's consistent throughout the playoffs, that's all I really care about. And it's been a hard few weeks here for the officials because they haven't been able to stay consistent, and it's been what we're talking about now. It's been talked about for the past few weeks too. So it's unfortunate. Just as long, and you just really hope that it doesn't get in the way of a very close game. And I guess the most recent example was the Tampa Bay game where Hedman got tripped, and he was penalized with less than 2 minutes to go, and that's where it comes an issue, is because when it starts affecting the outcome of the game, and that's where it should be left to the players, not the officials.
The whole thing is that's I don't like that wording, left to the players, not the officials, because if your standard changes and you've called something that way and you're like, I don't want to, you get that the saying, I don't that they say with reffing, you don't want to affect the game, so you don't call anything. By doing that, you affect the game. So
but it's about the consistency within it, right? If you're not going to call something in the first period, but then you call it the exact same or very similar play in the third period, then it doesn't net out.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying, is that but leave it to the players to play the game. If there's a call it, but it doesn't. As long as you leave it to the players, that's all I care about.
Well, let's get to that part of it, because that's all we need to get into on that's all I want to get into that part of it. And I'm going. I know we'll get to Vegas in a second, because I usually like to start with the win, but one of the things that we did not address yesterday was the fact that Luke Richardson won his first National Hockey League game as a coach. He was, of course, now he's the interim coach because Dominic Ducharme, who's in isolation with COVID-19, he got his first win in Game 3, and then game last night. I thought, just to sort of blending in, but I wanted to start here. I thought he handled it really it seems to me he's got a really good handle of what's going on there. This is not a guy that is in any panic. From the Canadiens' perspective, he's talked about how he's letting Shea Weber or he's not letting, but Corey Perry, Shea Weber, the leaders on the team are like, everything is fine. We've got this. He's got a really cool, calm demeanor here, and it's only 2 games that you're looking at, but you forget what Luke Richardson has been through, including the loss of his daughter. He was a high draft pick that turned out to be, I would say, he didn't turn out the way that I think a lot of people hoped, but he's paid his dues, and this is a guy that I think at some point I hope gets a job as a head coach in the National Hockey League. I think he's getting there.
He's with what he's doing right now with the Canadiens. Don't think that it's getting lost upon hockey operation staffs across the league, and trying to figure out, okay, well, if we want a coach that is somewhat proven to do well and has deployed his hockey club correctly and pushing the right buttons. From what I know of him, he's a bit of a player's coach, and but he still has the respect of the players not to let them walk all over him. So I think if you are a up and coming team, a younger team, that he might be a good coach to come in and help your young players succeed and do well, and not even just young players, but your veterans that obviously the Shea Weber, like you said, Kev, Shea Weber, Corey Perry, and Eric Stahl, a bunch of veterans on that team. They obviously respect him enough that they want to play for him. So I would love to see him get a chance at a head coach. You're on mute.
I'd like to see him get a shot. He's been around the block as an assistant coach in a few different organizations, and it's nice to see him get this. But I think that's there with today's technology. We all know that Ducharme's been involved pretty heavily, at least before and after games, maybe even during intermissions via Zoom calls and video calls and everything like that. But having him as a respected, him and Burrows, as well as I can't remember who the third coach is, but they're all, I think they're all very well respected, and the players are playing for not only Luke Richardson, Burrows, but also for Ducharme here, and you can tell that there is a very good respect for everyone behind that bench.
Richardson is handling. I know what you're saying, but Richardson is handling the bench, and I think even in the midst of everything that happened yesterday, kind of keeping the calm. That just, to me, that impressed me. And it leads me to, I don't think Montreal's out of this in any way, shape, or form. But just to flip to Vegas here for a second. One other guy that I don't think is, I'm not going to say he's the most underrated defenseman in the league, because I wouldn't say that, but we touched on this yesterday. Really, the best player for Vegas, I think, for the last 2 days has been Brayden, and we'll get to the goaltending decision in a second here. But the best player for the Vegas Golden Knights these 2 games was Brayden McNabb. The 2 great hits from Saturday. And then the goal he scored yesterday. I don't think he's appreciated enough. I'm not saying he's the most underrated defenseman in the NHL, but man, he's a guy that you'd love to have on your team.
Yeah, he's just when you look at what he does, he's not flashy offensively, but he's very solid defensively. He's got a presence out there that you have to respect, because, well, you saw what he did to Nick Suzuki. He can do that to you. But you look at that blue line. They've got Pietrangelo, they've got Alec Martinez, they've got Shea Theodore. Those are 3 really, really good defensemen, and he may not be like a true, like, he's a good 3-4 defenseman, but you need those guys, and you need them to be. You need big, physical, intimidating defensemen on your blue line. Especially when things go prison rules, as Bieksa called it. Speaking of someone he reminds me of, he may not have the same sort of swagger and outward confidence that Bieksa carries himself with and really exuded when he played, but he plays a very similar, honest, just physical, safe defensive game, and you need that, and it's great to see him starting to get some praise.
He's a big boy. He's 6'4", and he's pretty nimble for being that size. The other hit on Lehkonen was very similar to Suzuki, just a bit closer to the boards. But he can dish it out. And I don't know if you guys remember in the first period yesterday, he had a hell of a shot that Carey Price just got enough of on his shoulder. Otherwise, it was going bar down. He's sneaky good, and it might be a bit of a coming out party for him. He has been around for a while. I know that, he's a good 3-4 defenseman that could play in your top pairing if need be. If you do, especially in the playoffs, you need players like that can hit and is defensively sound. But as Sean said it best, he's not flashy, but he gets the job done.
Yep. And then, of course, the big decision that came out, they went with Robin Lehner. Was that
a thing on Twitter? I don't know.
what?
Was that a thing on Twitter? Was it a topic? I don't know. Weird.
Just a little bit.
Yeah.
Oh, I missed your sarcasm there. You should have put a sign up. Sarcasm. I was wrong. I thought that was I didn't. I mean, I'm not discrediting. I don't want to discredit Robin Lehner here. Although he certainly might have been motivated by some of the media stuff if you saw his press conference yesterday. But credit back, you guys are right. Credit Pete DeBoer. I mean, he's got a pulse on his team, and he took the gamble, and it worked.
Yeah, he came out and played very, very well. He didn't give up egregious rebounds. He made a massive save that was very close, and there was a review about it, which I don't know about you guys, but I still think it wasn't a goal. I don't know where you guys sit on it, but he played amazing. I didn't realize he was as heavy as he is. I believe he's 260 pounds. Like, holy crap. And being able to move around the crease like that, it's crazy. I'm just going off of what Kelly Rudy said last night. I'm pretty sure he said it was 260. But anyways, he's, he came to play, and he was good enough for the Vegas Golden Knights to win. And that's all you can ask for. And talk about a team player in Marc-Andre Fleury. They panned to him a couple times during that broadcast last night, and he was jacked for his team, and that's exactly what you want if you have a tandem like that feeds off of the competition, but also it's not about your personal accolades. It's about what's best for the team, and wanting to make sure that the team comes first and respect the coach's decision. So I'm surprised that we didn't hear or see anything online about with Fleury's agent, like he did a few years ago. He did a nice little Photoshop
last year.
Was that last year? Yeah,
that was last year.
Oh man, so yeah, it's I'm happy for Lehner. I really am.
Yeah, Lehner is listed on NHL.com as 6'4", 250. Like his nickname is Panda. And yeah, he was great, and DeBoer looks like a genius, but he needed the win to look like that though. So, and it came down to the wire, and yeah, that wasn't the goal. That was really close, that review in the first period, but didn't quite cross the line, or you couldn't prove that it crossed the line. But yeah, I think Lehner and Fleury have a really good relationship, but I think it even goes back, and I think Alan Walsh went rogue, and I don't think Fleury was too happy with how he handled that last year. But I think they have a good relationship, and Fleury being Fleury, like he's gone through this before. Like he won the cup as the starter with Pittsburgh back in the early part of his career, and then he's gone through two cup runs with being sort of the 1A 1B with Matt Murray with the Penguins, and now he's doing it again. And I think he knows like it's playoffs. It doesn't matter like how many games you play, but if you play, you get and you win, you get your name on the cup, and this would be number 4 if he can do it.
Yeah,
and it's people. I think it wasn't necessarily. I think there's a lot of people who are a lot like coming from it, similar to what you were coming at it there, Kev, where it wasn't necessarily against Lehner, but it was just like, well, you've got your Vezina nominee goaltender who's carried you for most of the season, been your starter, played really well. I wouldn't say carried, but. And now you're flipping over to after one bad gaffe, you're flipping over. What are you doing? And we shared the Robin Lehner's tweet about thanks for the motivation, thanks for all the nice words, you guys, appreciate all the love. But I think most of it was just like, it was more like, why are you? It wasn't anything against Lehner. It's just more was more like, why are you going away from the guy who has basically been a big part of why you're here in Fleury? But they've already set. Was what I said yesterday, is like they brought Leonard in and then re-signed him at a very significant contract at $5 million for what, another 3 years after this, or 2 years after this, and
4.
That's why they brought him in, so that they could go with who they think gives them the best chance to win, and they felt like it was Leonard, and they were able to get the win. So.
Well, it wasn't only that too. I mean, it wasn't. I mean, one of the turning points that is when Cole Caulfield went in on a breakaway again, and typically when Cole Caulfield in this series has went on a breakaway, he scored, but Leonard stopped him, and I do think that was a small. I'm not saying that was the turning point of the game, but it was a significant thing, because Caulfield was. That line of Suzuki, Toffoli, and Caulfield was running things there, and Leonard making that save, I think it buoyed a little bit to help the Golden Knights a bit. I like saying that this was the TSN turning point, but I don't think that was insignificant in any way.
Oh, it was a huge save. Like it was. Because that was before they tied it up too.
Yes,
so,
yeah, it was early. It was early in the third. They would have been up 2-0. Yeah.
Yeah. So that you got to find a way to you have to have a goalie make big saves at that point.
And especially with Cole Caulfield, he's I don't think everybody really knows what he's about yet. So he has a bit of mystery to him. And to a little bit of the debate about yesterday, I think within next year and halfway through next year, they'll start figuring out exactly what Cole Caulfield is and start game planning for him. Because if you don't, obviously he can snipe it, and he's been on a couple of breakaways here ever since coming in. And yes, Kevin, you said it best, that he has less miles on the speedometer, or on the tracker this year for himself. So I think he's coming in with a little bit more piss and vinegar, and has a bit more of pep in his step to make those plays. But credit to Leonard for making the big saves when he needs to, and the same with Carey Price. Both these goalies and Fleury within this series have made massive, huge game-saving saves, and if those ones actually went in, man, it could be a completely different game. And those are the big saves that you need during the playoffs to make your team successful and move on to the next round.
Yeah. And then the Vegas Golden Knights got a goal from a position they don't get a lot of goals from. A forward scored a goal in this series. Nicholas Waugh with the overtime winner, assisted by the guy I picked to score the overtime winner, Max Pacioretty. But that is also not insignificant either. Because I think now the Vegas is. I think the forwards are going to get a little bit more productive here in the last half of this series. It's not. If they don't, they're not going to win anyway. But I think that these forwards are going to start. I don't think you're going to keep them down for 7 games.
Yeah, that Nicholas Waugh pickup from that Vegas did when they were at a bit of an impasse with Eric Holla and not know if they were going to be able to keep him, and they moved him out for Nick Waugh and a fifth. He's basically stepped in and played very well, and may not have had the same offense that Eric Holla had in his season with Vegas, but he's found a way and stepped in, and now he's ready to just be at least a third line center for Vegas. And the patience that he had on that play, like he made the one shot that Price saved, and then he got the rebound. He didn't just try and jam it in. He waited and then flipped it over. Like, yep. I don't think that I can give as much like credit to him for what that was. You think about it, it's overtime, it's game 4. Like, if you don't win that game, you're down 3-1. You could totally panic and just start jamming away at the puck and hope it crosses the line. But he took that extra second to control the puck and then flip it over a diving Carey Price to get that goal. That's just that was amazing to me.
Ballsy of him to not trying to rip that top corner. Like talk about also the hands. Like, yeah, the poise that he has had. He was fortunate enough to be in the right spot when last game or game 3 where Eric Staal coughed it up to him right in front of the net and got the puck up, just like very similar distance away from Carey Price. So I commend the guy a lot. But you do need those type of heroes within making a playoff or making a Stanley Cup run. You think about back in 2004, Martin Gianna scoring daggers within every single elimination game, and good on Watt to seize that moment and not panic, like Sean said, and just start jamming away and getting a garbage goal, but having the poise to check up and just flip the puck over. He's slowly making a name for himself within Vegas and probably around the league that could potentially give him a good contract here once he's done with Vegas because of what he has done within the playoffs here.
I'm kind of curious what Vegas is doing with their centers, because Chandler Stevenson is another guy that seemed to have has developed his game a little bit. You had Eric Holla, was certainly effective in Vegas. You got Nicholas Roy, that my French out a little bit. They seem to be doing something there. There's
Don't
something
forget about Cody Glass, and
right. Yeah.
That's been a huge someone missing from them. He's injured and can't step in with the injury to Chandler Stevenson. So they need someone like a Nicholas Waugh to step up, or Alex Tuck, because don't forget they've been plugging him in at center with Pacioretty and Stone as well. That was what made them really good, and even really good. And one of the reasons why they made it to this third round is because they've had the depth of center, despite not having like the big names. They've found a way to be effective with Chandler Stevenson centering the veterans and Stone and Pacioretty. Then you have Wild Bill Carlson on the misfit line, and then you had Nick Waugh and Alex Tuck that can play can play center or wing in the bottom 6. And losing Stevenson's been definitely something that they've struggled with, and they still struggled with the last game. Is one of the biggest reasons why I think they're struggling to score with their forwards. But they've got some players who, if they can step up, that's going to be huge. And if they don't, that'll be one of the big reasons why they don't move on.
Yeah, you're talking about depth as well. They have Peyton Krebs waiting in the wings here as well to step in as well. I'm just looking at his accolades here. Peyton Krebs, kind of very similar to what I did back in the day. Obviously, I'm comparing myself to Peyton Krebs, but no, it's same kind of route that I took. But anyways, he's definitely someone to watch out for as well, along with Cody Glass. So they do have some good centers, potential good centers coming up through their system as well. But they definitely are missing Stevenson a lot within that lineup. And who would have thought that would be that sentence would be uttered within that lineup? And maybe I'm not giving him enough credit going into the season, but I was surprised that he was within the top two center lines, or centering the top 2 lines within this year. But obviously they are missing him.
Well, you look back at that 2018 Washington team. I mean, Holt B that was, he led him to the cup, and then Grubauer, they traded him to Colorado. Stevenson, they traded to Vegas, and then Barry Trotz went to the Island, and they haven't won a series since. And I'm not saying, I mean, you take it for what you will. I mean, Trotz is the obvious one, but probably Grubauer and Stevenson were pretty significant losses as well. So
they traded away Stevenson for a 5th-round pick.
Yeah, it was basically they traded him for nothing, really.
Yeah. And as soon as Stevenson got to Vegas, he seemed to be like, okay, this is my chance, and took it.
Yeah.
Going into this season, I thought it was Cody Glass that was going to get that prime center spot between Stone and Pacioretty, and I think they tried, but Stevenson was a better fit, and he played really well this year, and has gotten, what did he put up? He put up 14 goals and 35 points in 51 games. Like that's nothing to scoff at. And yeah, I said going into these playoffs, if there was an issue with Vegas, it's that center depth, and they need that misfit line to start clicking and start producing, or they need to figure out who's that best, or they need to find who can fill in for Stevenson, or hope he can come back, because it's 2-2 and they've still not gotten enough offense from their forwards. So if they want to win this series, I think they need the misfit line to step up. They need Stone and Pacioretty's line to step up, and if they don't, we're seeing Carey Price play Carey Price and keep Montreal in it when they're not playing well, and still playing really well when they are playing, are the better team on the ice.
Anything else specific to this series that I'll take that silence as no. I'm trying to kind of I'll save that for the end here. I think that's probably a better way to end. Let's just hop to the Islander Tampa Bay series here, and we have a poll question out. Heard you a little bit yesterday discussing my question about Brayden Point. There was some tweets out there that started and that Brayden Point was a top 10 player in the NHL, and that's where this is. So that's where we have the poll question here. Is Brayden Point a top 10 player in the NHL? Devin has heard me, and I remember your face, Devin, when I said it. So I'm going to be curious. I said if there was anybody on Tampa Bay that I could take from there, and this is all due respect to a Victor Hedman and a Nikita Kucherov and even an Andre Vasilevsky, but I would take a Brayden Point. To me, he's a pot that stirs a drink. He scores goals at opportune times. He's where the play needs to be. He's always in the fabric of the game. That's the type of player that I like. Does that make him a top 10 player? I would put him at 10. I don't have I'm not going to say he's the best player. He's better than McDavid. I'm not saying that. But I do think I'm open to the conversation. I would put him at 10. I don't think that's necessarily insane.
Yeah, when I went through it, I saw that question. I'm like, okay, let's dig into this. And for the past 3 seasons, I went by point. I looked at point production, and it's not everything. And what you said about him being the straw that stirs the drink is 100% correct. I remember watching him play, I think about 3 seasons ago here in Calgary, and I left that game absolutely in awe about Brayden Point. And that was a team that was, they've got Kucherov, they've got Hedman, Stamkos, but it was Brayden Point that really, really stood out. Even Yanni Gord had a Gordie Howe hat trick in that game, if I remember correctly. But it was Point. But when I went through that, he was in the, I think, 24th or in the mid to late 20s in terms of points per game for that amongst players. And then I took that and I was like, okay, who are players that I know are ahead of him. I would rank ahead of him right now, and you've got the five that are for sure ahead of him, and for forwards in McDavid, McKinnon, Matthews, Draisaitl, and Crosby. Hedman is the best defenseman in the NHL right now, and I would have him in my top 10 ahead of Brayden Point. And then I also had Alexander Barkov and Mikko Rantanen. I think those two guys are absolutely they deserve to be in the top 10. And then after that, you got Kucherov. And I think you can, as you said, Kev, because Brayden Point is the guy who stirs the drink, and you can make an argument that he's ahead of Kucherov. But then you look at who else is available, who else you could throw in that top 10. And you've got names like Jonathan Huberdeau, Mark Stone, David Pasternak, Marchand, Patty Kane, Panarin, Malkin, Aho, Ovechkin, Marner. There's probably people that would yell at me for not listing other players. I think after you get to 8, it's all personal preference, and I don't have him as a top 10, but that's not a knock against him, and I'm here for that argument. I think it is a legit argument based off of what you want out of a player.
Yeah, I have to agree with Sean's top 8. I don't think Rantanen's quite there. I think that he's a really good player. He's a great offensive player. I mean, I just don't think that I think that Point is better than Mikko Rantanen as of right now. I don't think Kucherov, it's really hard to say. I'd say that probably Kucherov is just a bit better than Brayden Point for me. But if you're going to start a team, you can make a damn good argument that Kev, like you said, Vasilevsky, Hedman, Kucherov, or Point. You could, depending on how you want to build your team and where you want to start from, that he could definitely Point could be your number one pick within that. And I think it's a fascinating conversation to have and a good debate because after those top 8 players that Sean listed, I don't know. You could insert anybody within that those last 2 spots of the top 10. He's definitely a top 20 player. He could be arguably a top 15 player, but top 10 as of right now, I really don't know if I really see that. But God, he's a hell of a fucking player, and he comes to play in the playoffs. He scores when it matters, and those are the type of players that you do need to win championships.
I guess I rate I rate playoffs a little higher. That's why, and it's like, yeah, I would say 9 or 10. I don't disagree with your top 8 there, and I do think Barkov is a guy that I don't think gets enough credit. I would probably put him at 8 for sure. Yeah, I'm not saying he's the best player, but I just would love to have him on my team.
Yeah, I'm just going to pull up here. I pulled up from hockeyreference.com. They've got a player comparison or stathead.com as well. But I'm going to pull this up for comparing Rantanen and Point. And you look at how close they are. Point does have more points, but he's played a significant amount of more games over the past 3 seasons. And then you look at their playoffs, it's really close. I think I can understand the argument. Well, hi Carl.
Hi Carl.
I'm totally here for that argument. Like I said, it's top 8, and then you've got 7 or 8, and then it's a bit of a free-for-all based off of what you're looking for. And like we only have one defenseman in that amongst that. So we've got I think that's more because I think the best defensemen right now and the ones that are going to be dominating this league are all young and they haven't quite hit their stride. You've got Heiskanen. Don't sleep on Rasmus Dahlin. Just because he's stuck in Buffalo and if he was anywhere else, I think he'd be right up there with the McCarrs, the Hughes, the Heiskanens, the Adam Foxes, and everyone there. Like, it's just with defensemen, I think they're the best defensemen that we're going to have in this league for the next 5 to 10 years are just on the cusp of really becoming their best. And even maybe 2-3 years away from that, honestly. But by the time they get there, it could be, you could have 2, 3, 4 defensemen in the top 10 of NHL players. I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, and the whole Point or Rantanen debate, I think I'd rather have Point in a defensive zone draw than Rantanen. Rantanen isn't even a center too. I think that has to do with it as well. But good on Rantanen for kind of being in the same conversation, at least that we are talking about him. But yeah, as far as the defense go, Hedman is a tier above everybody else as of right now, but it doesn't mean that those young bucks aren't going to be knocking at the door saying, "Oh, hey, I'm right here. Let's have this debate in about 2 to 3 years, maybe even 5 years."
I would also be here just on the top 20. I'm here for the argument that Jacob Slavin is a top 20 player. I know that he doesn't have the splashy stats, and I know that, my God, how dare we vote him Lady Bing, Damian Cox. But I'm here for him in a top 20 argument. But I guess the other thing with Point too is I don't know. I mean, looking ahead to the Canadian Olympic team, I think Point is on it. He's a slam dunk to me. He's an absolute. But I guess the question then becomes: is Bergeron on the team? Is he a slam dunk?
I don't think he is right now, but I don't think he's a slam dunk, but I think he'll end up being on it just because him as like a fourth line center or third line center shot like that you can throw out there in sort of defensive zone situations. I think is so hard to pass up. Like he still is the best Canadian defensive Selke style forward or center, because you could put together a line of Mark. You could have Mark Stone and Bergeron on a line together, and that would be your line that you throw out there in defensive zone and defensive situations, and that's just unfair.
Yeah, I'd see him as a depth player if he gets selected. It would be hard to go away from him because he is so good in the draw. But yeah, he's not a slam dunk, but he's definitely, I think he'll be on the team. I don't see Canadian whoever's going to be selecting the Canadian team going away from him, because one other thing that Team Canada always does is they respect and love the fact that if you play for Team Canada, you will always play for Team Canada too. And there's that bit of a bias there. But it's not saying that Bergeron doesn't deserve to be there, because he has been there before. He's still a really good player.
Yeah. And I guess it's how you deploy the lines, because it depends on if McDavid's a center or a wing. Because I mean, just stop for a second. This is potentially a line: Crosby, McDavid, McKinnon.
Yep. Imagine that speed, you could with saying that sentence, you could think that I'm talking about McDavid or McKinnon, the mix, if you will. But imagine those guys on the wing and how fast they would go, because they don't have to be defensively minded within that structure. And God, they could both just fly up and down those wings, and it'd be amazing with Crosby at center.
That will be the greatest Canadian line since Gretzky, Howard, Chuck, Lemieux.
That's saying something too.
There's some breaking news I wanted to share here. Just came out from the Seattle Kraken, and sort of something dear to my heart, but I will just see if I can play this. I want to be careful. I won't go full screen, but I will play this as. Oops. Oh, dang. Hang on. Let me find it. Maybe I won't play the video, but JT Brown has been named as the color commentator with John Forsland for Kraken broadcast, former Tampa Bay Lightning. I think it will be a good fit there. He's got a ton of experience, and yeah, it's going to be a good fit. John Forsland is one of the better play-by-play guys, so I think a good combo there. So congratulations to that, as they're putting their broadcast team and putting things together there.
Yeah, he's not someone to shy away from expressing his opinion either, so that's good.
Yeah, it'll be a good combination, I think.
Has JT Brown have any No, this is his first go around.
I believe. Yeah, I think this will be his first full first deal with. I think he was just retired too. Let's see here.
Yeah,
because I think having an ex-player being your color guy, I think is good. And as talk about the experience that Brown has had within the NHL, I think he'll be a great addition to that broadcast crew.
He played this year in Borklöven in Sweden, 19 games, 12 points. Played with the Wild, 2019, 8 points in 56 games. So I think it's a good hire. I really do. I think he'll be fresh face, 30 years old. Yeah. I think it'll appeal to the younger demographic. So.
Mm-hmm.
Some sad news also this morning. Blends in with the Wild. And the reason I was like, I'm not sure where this connects, but I do think probably it fits at the end here. Tom Kurvers, 58 years old, former Montreal Canadiens defenseman, assistant general manager with the Minnesota Wild, passed away this morning. I remember him from 1986. On that cup run with the Montreal Canadiens. He played with Chris Chelios. He was part of a very young group that got the Canadiens to the Stanley Cup. And he's an ambassador for Minnesota hockey. And from the tweets that I'm seeing, he's been looked at as a very good man. And it's a sad day for Canadian fans and Minnesota Wild fans as well. But Tom Kurvers was a really good defenseman in the National Hockey League and a solid assistant general manager and passionate about Minnesota hockey. So
played 30 some games with the Canucks in 1990-91 as well. So
he was also a Hobey Baker Award winner as well.
Yes, he was.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and I believe, it was cancer, unfortunately, and he was 58. And thoughts go out to his family, friends, and the whole Minnesota hockey community that he probably has influenced in many ways.
Yeah, fuck cancer.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He also played with the Islanders and the Ducks and the Buffalo Sabres and the New Jersey Devils, and in Japan.
He was big in Japan.
Yeah. Anything else we need to get into?
I just want to bring up, I also have some breaking news. It's the Supreme Court in the States has made a ruling on the NCAA, and this is something to watch going forwards. The NCAA's rules on student athletes is quite strict, and with this ruling, it should loosen them, allow them to actually make some money on the side, so that they don't have to rely on scholarships and working a job. Like it should open things up a little bit without them losing their quote unquote amateur status. With the while playing it for whatever sport, whether it's hockey or football or basketball, let alone any of these sports that don't get the press that the big sports get. But it's something to watch going forwards, because depending on how it changes, that might be something that changes the relationship between the NCAA, the NHL, and even the CHL.
Yeah, that is. I didn't notice that, but it must have just happened. Did it just happen? 2 hours
It happened.
ago.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I don't know if anyone knows the whole issue with NCAA and CHL. If you go to a CHL as a player, you go to a CHL camp and accept any sort of equipment, you lose the eligibility to go down and play college hockey and get an education while playing hockey in the NCAA, which I think is absolutely ridiculous. You don't even have to play a game in the CHL and become ineligible for it. So I really hope that this helps them fix that issue, so that we can see, because you may want to go try the CHL, realize it's not for you, and you want to go get an education, and you want to go down to the States and get an education and still play hockey. I think that should still be allowed, and I really hope that this helps make that change happen, so that we can have it'll help the level of play in the NCAA, which has been rising for a while now, and it could help it rise even more.
Yeah, this will be it'll be interesting to watch going forward. It's ridiculous that college athletes aren't, the rules around this have been just ridiculous for a long time, and it's an old boys club that just, you play for the letter, you play for the school, that should be enough. And there's a lot of players that are actually, because of this rule, haven't been able to play. And I think that this opens the door a bit. So I'm happy myself.
Yeah, and as Jeremiah said, yeah, the amount of money the NCAA makes off of these amateur athletes because of these ridiculous rules is insane. And we need to. I really hope that this helps them. And then with like I said, tied into hockey, it's that the NCAA CHL setup where you. The other thing is with the NHL, I'm just, if you're an NCAA player, you have to pay your way to skills camps. If you're drafted by like Quinn Hughes, Jack Rathbone, who was I think Noah Hannafin and anyone who was drafted out of the NCAA are still playing in NCAA. And you want to go to a skills camp in the summer that a lot of the hockey the teams host, you have to pay your way. While CHL players playing in Sweden, the club covers it. Like I really hope that this can help them fix those issues, because if you're a like, was Dustin Bufflin would be a great would be that one. A great example is someone who went through NCAA. He had a single mom who basically worked multiple jobs to pay for his hockey, and then he's expected to pay his own way to go from like Minnesota to Atlanta, where he started his career. I agree that is something that needs to change. And hopefully this ruling helps change that.
Yeah, totally. I got breaking news as well. Since we're going around the horn, the Calgary Hitmen have announced their home opener for October 3rd, and the full schedule will come out on Wednesday.
Yes, it is. We're gonna have I'll have an article actually out on the Blazers, the Cougars, and the Rockets, their schedule. So,
nice.
Who are the Hitmen playing?
That's a good question. I just see it on Matt Rowe's Twitter. But interestingly enough, it's not at the Saddle Dome yet. It's still at the Seven Chiefs Sportsplex in Tsushima Nation. So not quite back to normal as of yet, but I'm just opening up here. They'll be playing Red Deer. Oh, no.
I'm guessing Lethbridge because I think it's Red Deer Edmonton.
Yep, for pregame or preseason.
The home opener on October 3rd versus Lethbridge.
Yeah, because it's Lethbridge. Because I know the Hitmen's is a Lethbridge home opener, and I'm just going to say it: the Hitmen shouldn't be playing in the Saddle Dome. But that's me. I don't live in Calgary. None of my business.
Hold on, you said they shouldn't?
Nope.
Oh, I agree. I think they need to find a smaller arena.
Some smaller rink.
Yeah, and fill it and just make it a barn that you hate going to if you're an opposing team, because it's just too cavernous in the dome. And either that or you need to start. You just need to fill that lower bowl. Fill that lower bowl and do it that way. Close off the second level and fill that lower bowl as much as you can. I know Hitmen tickets are sort of included in on the season tickets for when you buy them, and especially in the club level. But please, I want to see Calgary Hitmen hockey be a lot like sort of a smaller town where you fill a small barn and you make it hard. You make it hard on the opposing teams to come in.
I'm trying to think of another place other than the Max Bell Arena where they could possibly play that's a bit smaller and you can get a kind of a better atmosphere. But other than that, I mean,
the arena up at COP is good, but it's not easily accessible, unfortunately. That's the major drawback for that one.
Right.
And then Jeremiah, the Saddle Dome is going to be replaced, but the timeline on that is up in the air at this point. I think it was supposed to be 2024, but it's not starting on time. There's some issues there.
Something to do with money. I don't know. Who needs it?
Yeah. And yeah, good on Jeremiah as well. I love that you guys are hammering home the super important issues like this. See? Yeah. Thank you. Anyway.
Yes.
Any other breaking news? No.
Jeremiah, we talked about the JT Brown just before the other two breaking newses.
Yeah. I got one more breaking news. Semyon Varlamov is the starter tonight. Crazy.
All right. Well, let's leave it there. How do we follow everyone?
I am BeardyConnect03 on Twitter.
Follow me on Twitter at Gordhouse09.
Tyler, TNOBLE. Chris is Schneids, SCHNEIDZ. Of course, what is he? Is he played in the same town as Brayden McNabb?
Chris?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. He lived in Davidson, Saskatchewan, where Brayden McNabb was from.
There we go. Okay. So yes, I was going to tweet that out, but I forgot. And then I am KEVOLE, OLE podcast _hockey, Facebook.com, the hockey podcast, YouTube.com, the hockey podcast. We are back on Wednesday to recap Game 5, Golden Knights, Montreal Canadiens. Someone will have the hammer heading into Game 6. And thanks everyone for watching, and we will talk to you all very soon. I missed it because of Real Kipper, but love the Beards boys. And Kevin, you are great too. There we go. Talk to you all soon. Bye for now.